So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Martin Luther King was born in Atlanta, Georgia on January 15, 1929. Along with his older sister and a younger brother, he grew up in the city's Sweet Auburn neighborhood, a prominent African-American county. In the summer of 1947, he decided to become a minister and delivered his first prepared sermon in his father's church, Ebenezer Baptist Church, in Atlanta, at age 18. In 1955, he became heavily involved in the Montgomery, Alabama boycott of the city's buses, which was spurred by the bus company's insistence that African Americans only ride in the back seats. After he graduated school in 1948, King entered Crozer Theological Seminary in Pennsylvania, where he received a Bachelor of Divinity degree, won a prestigious fellowship, and was elected as president of his predominantly white senior class. Although he had planned to continue in his father's footsteps by joining the ministry, he changed his mind under the mentorship of Morehouse's president, Dr. Benjamin Mays, an influential theologian and outspoken advocate for racial equality. After he had started to fight for racial equality, Martin Luther King faced many obstacles, including being arrested around 30 times for protesting. One of these protests was when he led a boycott of the bus system, protesting that white demands that blacks move to the back. In 1963, he was arrested and sent to jail because he and others were protesting the treatment of blacks in Birmingham, Alabama. A court had ordered that King could no longer hold protests in Birmingham. People came against Martin Luther King and what he represented about civil rights and the progress that had been made. However, he was unmoved in his opposition. He was also the object for several violent attacks, including on him and his property. He received threatening phone calls, death threats, he was stabbed, and his home was even bombed and set on fire. The March on Washington was originally discouraged by President Kennedy, in fearing that it might make the legislative vote against civil rights laws a perceived threat. Once it became clear that the march would go on, though, he supported it. Forward opposition included the white supremacist groups, including the Ku Klux Klan, who were not in favor of any event supporting racial equality. The march was also condemned by some civil rights activists who felt that it showed an inaccurate representation of racial harmony. Martin Luther King finally presented his long-awaited speech, and it had quite an impact. The speech, along with the March on Washington, not only led to the passage of significant civil rights legislation, but it also allowed King to advocate for other human rights causes, such as poverty and workers' rights. The speech brought Martin Luther King and his message of non-violence to a nationwide and worldwide audience. It was broadcasted on radio and was printed in newspapers and magazines, not only all over the United States, but all over the world. His speech and its impact made Congress move faster in the passing of the Civil Rights Act. This set of laws was finally passed the next year, in 1964, and many of these laws gave African Americans more equal treatment than ever. Martin Luther King's name was now becoming known to many more people than before. His speech and legacy is still significant today, as civil rights were changed, not only from the progress made, but how the public viewed them. Minorities were given a voice, and this led to black people's rights being talked about more and organizations supporting them being formed, such as the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People and the SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which was one of the most important organizations of the civil rights movement in the 1960s.